All right, so welcome back. This is Mia with Billy. I'm Caroline Ryder of Ryder Horsemanship, and we're going to break down the suppling technique of ours some more for all of you. Suppling, it's a very complex technique, and while it's a complex technique, we can add that technique to specific exercises. So there's two different things going on, and then we're going to add a third thing, which is the approach that you take. While we're teaching all of the horses here at Ryder Horsemanship the same curriculum, the same program, each horse shows up differently. And so we take a different approach with each horse. When we're working on or in those exercises or patterns, we're always dealing with the uniqueness of the horse, how it shows up, and what kind of approach we need to take with that horse so it learns. And we're also using certain techniques. We're applying certain techniques while we're riding those exercises or patterns. So this technique is called suppling. Now I have a reining and a classical dressage background, and I like to use both. So I want to teach my horses self-carriage so that they carry themselves, which means while I follow a pretty strict classical dressage foundation, I don't use saddles for the most part. I don't use any bits at all, and I don't use my leg to engage the horse's top line. I don't use a strong contact either. We do work with contact, and that's a whole nother video in and of itself. But I want to develop my horses the old school way, the old classical way, so that they can learn how to carry themselves in all of these movements before the rider is introduced. So what we're teaching them through all of our liberty and round pen and cardio and lunging and riding is to carry themselves through the hind end. This is what provides a ton of safety for you as a rider. So we don't have any of those accidents where we fall, and our horses don't slip on the dew in the morning because they're collected in their movement. So that's another myth and dogma that a lot of people worry about, having grass arenas because my horse is going to slide. Well, your horse will fall if they're not balanced. What I'm going to show you now is the in-hand. We're going to have two in-hand exercises here, and the first one is going to basically be Mia's going to do a small circle, very small circle, where she's going to ask his hind end to cross underneath of itself as much as it can, get and stretch as much as it can while she creates a shoulder in. So she's just asking him to get on the vertical. She's not asking him to back up. See if you can square him up. Yep, and just ask him to just hold right there. Good, good. So we first have to see if a horse can even get on the vertical and break at the pole without pushing through contact or panicking. Now you're going to ask him to back up fluidly, 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Very nice. So this is a baseline. Billy understands this. A lot of horses in the beginning, like Billy, they'll fight this. So we're just showing you how it should look. And this gives Mia an idea of how responsive he is right now before she goes into adding a more complex exercise and technique. So again, the technique's going to be suppling him while he goes into the exercise of the shoulder around, or the haunches around the shoulder. Okay, go ahead. So just going to bring him forward. She's got to get her body in the correct position at his shoulder. Good. So she's going to push the shoulder out and then the hindquarters underneath. Okay, do you want me to step in? Yes. Okay, come on. We'll trade. Just, yep, stay right there. Okay. I'm going to overextend him so I can back off and have him have a much lighter contact and offer more of a natural bend, if that makes sense. So he's got a lot of scar tissue on his right side of his neck. The chiropractor has pointed this out. We can see it. and we can feel it and see it when we're working with him. So to help with scar tissue, you actually have to knead it, and you can red light it, you can actually palpate it and open it up by pushing on it. It's kind of like a deep tissue massage. But you can also stretch and help to break open that scar tissue. So that's why we love the in-hand work so much for a lot of these horses that have had other careers, whether it's dressage or reining or jumping or racing. Sometimes when they're not trained or ridden correctly, they form all sorts of issues in their body. If we take the bareback pad off or the saddle, we can see how he's going to start to engage his top line. He needs to fill out these muscles on each side of his spine. But at least his flanker, his buttocks, he's getting a nice division there, a nice line down the middle. So if you just look at his butt, this has been the hardest exercise for this horse, and he's been one of the toughest horses. So physically, it's been hard for him, but mentally, and he's such an easygoing thoroughbred. But his go-to button, his self-preservation button, is to freeze and check out and go on autopilot. So he's not learning when he goes there. He's just checking out. And it's like, Billy, you got to wake up. You're stiff as a board underneath of me. You're stiff as a board in the lunge. You know, the more he relaxes mentally, any horse, the more the body relaxes. So yes, your horse has to be able to respond to you tapping him with the whip and moving away from that pressure. They have to understand that. So there's a couple of building blocks that need to happen first that I'm not going to teach in this video. You can find that other online courses. Good boy. The steps to teaching a horse to become really responsive. Few steps, and then stop and reward your horse. Relax, release, praise, tell them good boy, wait for them to lick and chew. That tells you that they've understood and that they're learning. I'm going to take them to the fence. And we're going to take a look at our shoulder in, coming down the fence. We've been working on this riding, and we've done a little bit of in hand. We're going to see where he is on the ground first. Good. That was a good warm-up exercise. Let's see how well he can use his hind end. Get your forward first. So the shoulder end's a 3-track. Let's see how well his hind end can go stay straight while I pull in his shoulder. Good. So I will have Mia get on and show you guys some suppling exercises while mounted, and then the suppling technique, and then the exercise will be just going along the straightaway right now. Or if she wants to do the bend around the haunches, that'll be the other exercise. Everything she's doing though is the suppling technique, whether she's asking him just to break at the pole or break in the shoulder and a little bit in the pole while keeping the neck pretty straight, not too much bend in the neck. All right, okay, so when you're ready, let's show the bend around the haunch. And then set him up so that you can do a nice either turn on the haunch, you know, do some fancy turn, see where he is with all that. Turn on the haunch and a leg yield over when you're ready. So she's going to use the straightaway, the fence line, to work on her shoulder in first. You've got to teach your horses to be really light and responsive to your cues, or you guys are going to be overriding and actually screwing things up with your body. Okay. Mia, when he fights like that, work through it. Work through it right now. Yep, work through it. Work through it. Just bend him. Take his head and bend him. Bend him both ways. Both ways. To the right. Bend him to the right. Back him up. Just back him up. So there's a couple of strategies. When he gets stuck and he's panicking, just stop and work him through that panic. work his pole like crazy and back him up. Sometimes we can work through the exercise and just get him. You have two strategies there. Okay, good. Let's do some more until he doesn't panic so much. So we take a lot of time. We go really slow. We look for a ton of small areas where he's, we're always looking for the slightest try. Sometimes it's really hard, but you must be able to pick up the slightest try and build on that, or you can push a horse too fast and hurt them physically, or they could explode on you, which he's tried rearing. I mean, he's had a hard time. Okay, so we're starting to break some things. That was perfect. We're starting to break some things down and identify what's getting hung up here.
It's hard for him to go both big in the hind end and then pull.
Yep. I think it's just a combination of everything too. Yeah. So right now, people, that's how you can break this exercise down and go, wow, is he stuck in the haunches? No. Is he stuck in the shoulder? No. But when he's walking forward and Mia applies all the aids, I think, knowing Billy, it's a trust issue. One, he wants to check out. He doesn't want to pay attention. It's too scary. And also learning how he can move forward and separate these body parts and not be so tight. So it's just going to take time. This is his first week really working on this. Excellent. Let's do a few more and then we'll call that a wrap. These are advanced gymnastics when you're starting to work on the shoulder in, the shoulder fore, haunches in and haunches out. They're very, very advanced, and usually people don't start working on those in dressage until later on in the levels. And I like to work on it as part of the foundation for a horse because I want them to move correctly as we progress. I don't want to wait. And my horses are never lame and never have any issues. So good. So as you're developing the shoulder in, shoulder fore, haunches in, haunches out, you have to understand the building blocks. You have to do the in-hand work. Your horse has to be able to do a turn on the haunch, a turn on the forehand. They have to be able to do it correctly, which is a lot of crossing over in front or crossing underneath before you can execute this technique correctly. But we're not going to drill this every day, guys. And believe me, this is the toughest day we've had with him. We've really gone about this very slowly, mentally and physically. And he had a chiropractic adjustment yesterday morning after his morning session. And he's doing phenomenal. He was adjusted 2 weeks ago, and the changes are phenomenal from the suppling work. When horses start this work, they bend away from the direction, then they get straight, and then they bend towards it. And that'll be the more advanced level. So he's definitely not ready to bend towards the movement, but he's straighter, and his hind end is working better. Good. And it's okay if it's a little exaggerated and you lose a lot of the straightness in the bend. Right now it's all the pieces and the building blocks necessary for him to learn and to help him learn that he can move his body this way. Good job. Thank you. All right, we look forward to your comments.